What's up guys, Alex with AWR Performance here again on another install video with our Focus ST. If you've been following us since the last video, we've done some changes to the car. We are slowly getting this car in a more sight-friendly fashion. So we have done a front end conversion with the 15 plus hood, headlights, and bumper. We still are rocking our CV Fab front mount intercooler and charge pipe kit, and they're holding up flawlessly without any issues. But we are running into an all too common issue on these cars where the passenger motor mount is failing, along with just the need of an upgraded rear motor mount from the factory on these. So we have a solution here by AWR. They make an amazing kit. This is their Trilogy kit that has all three pieces: their rear motor mount, their passenger side motor mount, and the transmission motor mount. So this is all three motor mounts on the car. This is going to stiffen the car much more than the factory mounts do. This rear motor mount is an 88 durometer bushing, so this is a middle of the road. AWR offers a 70, an 88, and 95. This 88 is going to offer a lot of support to that motor, so when you're actually banging gears, it keeps the motor in place, keeps that weight on top of the wheels, and hopefully should eliminate some wheel hop and wheel spin. So yeah, we're super excited to throw these in the car. We've also got the 70 durometer passenger and transmission mounts. The reason we went with the 70 durometer is 88 is great for the rear, but having 88 all the way around is probably going to give us a little bit more vibration than we want from a full mount set. So we went with the 70, which is their softest option. This is still going to up the vibrations, but they should mellow out after the break-in, which is about 500 to 1,000 miles. And it should offer a lot of bracing benefits that this car needs and just lacks from the factory. So we're going to start by installing our rear motor mount, and then we'll be moving on to the passenger and the transmission side. I've got a textbook failure of a passenger motor mount failing from the factory. If you're unsure what that looks like, we'll show you right now. So here you can see there's an actual split in the bushing itself. This is super common on these cars. You can see it's shooting grease all the way down the side of the chassis. It's a little bit deep under there. You can see there's a lot of grease just being flung everywhere, up here too, even all over my AC lines. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at when starting to install this AWR rear motor mount is this bracket right here. So you can see with my example, I've got this aftermarket CV Fab charge pipe, so it's a little bit in the way, but I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. So we're going to see if we can work around it. OEM charge pipe should hug this oil pan a little bit more, so you should have extra room if you're still on that stock charge pipe. If you need to remove it, now would be a great time. Personally, I don't think it's worth the headache. I think we'll be able to walk around it with a box wrench. We're just going to be looking at these 15 millimeters. There's 3 of them right here, and then 2 of them that hold the down pipe. So we're just going to get these off and remove that bracket, and then start taking off the motor mount itself. So now that we've got these bolts off, we've got a lot more play in here, but to get this off properly, there's this one bolt tucked up on the back side holding the bracket and the motor mount in. Again, it's a 13, so you should be able to fit a box wrench. If you've got this little bendy head, that makes things a lot easier. Okay, now that we've got the downpipe bracket out of the way, which honestly on a lot of aftermarket downpipes, you don't even have these studs. The downpipe's pretty secure without it, so you know that is an option, whether or not we'll reinstall that or if you even have it on your car. But once that's out of the way, along with the mount that kind of holds this main piece in, we'll be able to take out the center bolt and this bottom supporting bolt of the rear motor mount. So these are both 15s. Just gonna bust those loose and get them out. Okay, so now that we've got the downpipe bracket out the way, we want to get these 3 bolts for this part of the motor mount. So we've got one bolt right here, we've got another bolt right here on the back, and then we've got one right up top above where the 2-piece motor mount connects. So these are a little tricky to get to. They are both 15 millimeters. The tips that we have for you here are get you a nice wrench, seat it on there, tap it with a hammer. Both this one and the one on the lower side of the motor mount should be able to be knocked freely with that pretty easily. For the bolt that actually goes through a stud on the top, you want to do the same thing. Fit the wrench over the bolt. Use a second wrench to create some leverage. Be careful not to crush your fingers. Keep the wrench aligned on the bolt, and you'll be able to break it loose, just like that. And then you can take this one off and just do the rest by hand. Okay, now that we have gotten those 3 bolts off, as we showed you how, we're able to take both the motor mount pieces out. Like that. As you can see, mine's even got a little bit of a crack in it right there, so we were definitely overdue. Time to replace it. Okay, so now that you've got the OEM mount out of the car, you can slide the AWR mount back in the slot that the OEM mount was, and then we'll put this supporting piece in its place. Now before you bolt up the AWR mount, you want to line up these 3 bolts that hold in the secondary mount. I would just hand tight these at first, and then make sure you get this one that's up in the back with the stud lined up properly and down tight before you start putting anything else. Otherwise, it's gonna be really hard to line that up. It could be possible to get it in after it's all said and done, but it'll save you a good bit just by doing that beforehand. So we're gonna tighten these bolts up and then put our main bolts through the motor mount and the brace, and then reinstall our bracket. We'll be good to go. Okay, so now that we've gotten the bolts tightened and torqued down to 75 foot-pounds on this secondary bracket, we're looking at this eye slot. Before we've tightened this or bolted this in, we're looking to line this up properly. That way we can feed the bolt through without having it clip on any of the stuff. So what we're doing is just gonna apply some upward pressure here and just get this in place. Should free it up a little bit. You can use a pry bar if you don't have a floor jack. This mount should play around with you. Once you get it in there, you might need to hold it in its position just to be able to feed that bolt through just like that. And you just want to get it started with your hand. You don't want to strip it or anything. Grab a 16 and start tightening it with your hand just to get it to thread through, and then we can actually put some power on it. If you feel any resistance before you get down to the edge, definitely double check it. You don't want to strip out the mount. Cool, now our bolt hole right here is lining up really nicely. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the bolt that we had. We cleaned it off with a wire brush and applied a little bit of Loctite to it. And we're just gonna thread it up through there. You need to tighten these back up and get to that bracket. Okay, so now that we've gotten everything tightened back in, but we've torqued everything down, 60 foot-pounds on this main upward bolt and 75 on the others. So we should be good. We do recommend after break-in period, about 500 miles or so, get back under the car, retorque them, just make sure nothing's coming loose. You know, there's gonna be harsher vibration from this upgraded mount, and you don't want any of your bolts backing out and then having a component fail on you due to the bolt backing out. So now that we got this installed, we can step out, finally, give my neck and back a break, drop the car down, and take a look at the passenger and the transmission mount. Now that we are done installing the rear motor mount, and we've had a good lunch, and we're ready to put some more energy into this thing, we're going to start on the passenger side. The first thing you'll want to do here is just remove your engine cover, and then we're going to look at taking the coolant reservoir and getting it out of the way. We're just going to take this flathead and stick it right here in between this little metal tab. This is what's going to hold the coolant reservoir in place. We will be supporting this with a solution that AWR provides. As you can see here, you can really see how bad this mount has been leaking. It's been really making a mess over here. Now that we've got this coolant reservoir out of the way, we want to support the engine from the bottom side of the vehicle. So you can see right here, I've just taken a floor jack and I've got a piece of wood that it's sitting on. If you got a rubber pad on your jack, you probably don't need the piece of wood, but it's always extra precaution. And I just have that resting upward on that oil pan just to keep the motor in place, because we are going to be removing this mount completely, and obviously we don't want the motor to drop. And go ahead with taking the OEM mount off. We got these 3 bolts up here. These are all 18 millimeters. So we're going to see if this gun will just pull them right off. Now we need to disconnect these 2 15 millimeter bolts, just like so. Now you can see all the wear on this bushing, not to mention the very obvious failure of it and all the grease that's came out of it. This is just a textbook example of how fragile these mounts are and why it's so important to upgrade these to something that's going to last you. I'm going to spend a little time trying to clean up the mess that this failed mount has made, and then we will show you how to install the AWR unit.
A few moments later.
We're going to go ahead and install this AWR mount into the vehicle now. You can see we've got the 3 studs that come off motor and the 2 holes that will thread into the actual chassis. We're just going to go ahead and line this up the best we can. We may need to move the engine by using the jack underneath the car to line this up properly. We will be tightening this main center bolt later. We want to make sure that we get a good fit on this before we start tightening everything down. So I'm going to get some studs and start threading those in there. That's pretty much right where we want it. See, it sits flush. Still want to tighten everything down really nicely. There are these spacers to allow the bolts to seat back where they should, and they also have the mounting bracket for your coolant reservoir. I believe this goes on first. Each one of these studs gets a spacer. Just thread our OEM bolts back on. Torque these top 3 bolts down to 60 foot-pounds. These 2 chassis bolts will go to 66 foot-pounds. All right, and now that we've torqued these down, we're gonna tighten this main bushing bolt. It's 2 19 mils. So we're just gonna get on each side of it, and we're just gonna make sure that each bolt and stud is all the way through this bushing. Now what we're going to do we should be able to lower the jack from under the motor. And now we can simply reinstall our coolant reservoir. It just goes over these two little clips right there. Now there is this little bushing flathead on this side. It really doesn't do anything, but it does require a little bit of upward support. So that's what this bracket is for. So it should line up pretty good. If you need to adjust it, just back that bolt off, move it around to make your adjustment. Just don't forget to retighten that down to 60 foot-pounds. Okay, now that we've got the passenger side motor mount installed, we're going to move over to the transmission side. Right now, we are going to remove our intake, our battery box. All right, you have 10 mil to take out the bolts that hold this box in. You should have 3 of them. There's 2 right here, and there's 1 kind of dip down here. These do typically get rusty. I've taken mine out recently. If you're having trouble fitting the socket over that head, my best advice to you is get a really sharp flathead or a pick and just try to chisel away at that rust. Those can be a make or break point for your install. So if you're on a time crunch, it might be worthwhile kind of just pulling the battery and just taking a look at those before you decide to go any further, because that can hold you up for quite a while. Okay, now that we've got the battery box, the whole 9 out the way, you can see here a little bit of a mess of wires. We do have some peripherals on this car, like our retrofit headlights and our lit logo. So you'll notice this front part of the battery box. We should have shown it, but this kind of pushes up, and then you'll clear the sides, and then you just pull the side of the battery box. This will pull out, and then once you unbolt the battery box, it'll come out easily. Now what we're looking at here is this box mount on top of the mount. It's got these 4 15mm bolts right in that square fashion. The wiring harness that runs from the battery sometimes will be clipped on with like a little plastic pinch clip on the side of this. Just make sure everything's free from that, because otherwise it'll restrict you when you're pulling it out. So we're gonna go ahead and get these off. Make sure you support the jack. Make sure you support the car with the jack. Again, help me up, bro. Oh. All right, so now that your motor is jacked up, we're gonna get this center bolt out. It's an 18mm right here. You should be able to remove the top part of this from the car. Just clear your wiring harness and pull directly up on it. And then you're going to reveal your 3 bolts right there for the lower portion of the car. Now you can see we've got some good wear on this bushing as well. With the age and the mileage of this car, it's definitely time to replace these. So this is definitely an overdue upgrade. We're super excited to work with AWR, as we have over years now. And they hooked it up on letting us put a kit in our car. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start by getting these 2 bolts off. And there's one that's kind of hidden under here, so this one's gonna be a little bit more tricky. I think we might need to use a box wrench to get that off. This 15mm bolt just takes strength, so grab your best 15 box wrench, and then we'll get this off the rest of the way. Okay, now that it's time to reinstall the transmission side motor mount by AWR, you want to disassemble the 2 pieces, and you want to take this lower mount, and we'll be putting that in first, just reinstalling it with the 3 bolts that we just pulled out of the OEM mount. So AWR does supply a spacer and a bolt for this closest to the front of the car hole on the motor mount. So once you get the first 2 bolts threaded in by hand, you should be able to slip this under there, feed a bolt through, and then thread that one in by hand. All right, now that we've got the bottom part of the mount installed and torqued down to 60 foot-pounds, we can use the top part of the mount. This is just gonna go over these 4 studs that are sitting here under the battery box. So we're just gonna line these up, make sure you're clear of your wires and everything. It may be beneficial for us to put some upward pressure on the bottom of the motor just to give this a little bit more leverage. Okay, that was a lot of fun. I mean that completely sarcastically. So getting this center bolt through the bushing is a bit tricky. So once you get your top part mounted down and you start lining that up, it's gonna be kind of tough to get it to line up, especially if you've got a stiffer option of the bushings. So one thing we did do, we went underneath the car, and the vertical bolt that goes through the motor mount in the rear, we undid that just to give us more play with the motor. We adjusted our jack position on, a little bit biased to the transmission side. That way we had a little bit more control. And we used an alignment dowel to pull the bushing, push and pull it to get the hole to be properly aligned so we could stick that bolt through. Now, at certain points we had to drop the motor a little bit with the jack. We had to raise it up. It's really about finding that perfect balance. So, it really helps to have an extra set of hands, somebody eyeballing it up here, pulling on an alignment dowel while you're adjusting the jack from beneath. But just take your time with it and wait until you can get that lined up and then thread it through. We did take the bolt and thread it through the front. That way the washer and the bolt are on the back. One thing that we did run into at first, we had the washer by the head of the bolt. So when we threaded it through, it got caught on the bolt sitting right here. So one thing we would suggest when you were threading that initial bolt through, make sure you line the washer up with the hole up against the mount. That way you don't get caught on one of these bolts and have to realign it. It'll just cause you more of a delay. So as long as you follow those steps, you should be able to feed that through. Now we'll get back to reinstalling the battery box and getting this mount put together and having our first start and seeing how the vibrations feel.
One eternity later.
All right, fast forward quite a few weeks. I've lost all my hair. We've got a fix for our microphone and the mounts are broken in. So status update, it's really cold and the mounts are great. So yeah, let's go ahead and start it up and see how she sounds. So really nothing out of the ordinary here. You do get a slight vibration on startup. If I rev the motor just in the first few hundred RPMs, you can feel a little bit more vibration through the chassis of the car. It's really not a big difference compared to your OEM mounts. I've got the 70 durometers on the side, the 88 durometer on the rear motor mount. It's got a nice balance of daily comfort, but it also provides the advantages of eliminating wheel hop and just giving me better traction and control overall when I'm driving the car hard. I'm really happy with these mounts on my car. You can reach out to Graveyard Performance and get hooked up on a set of these for your Focus ST or a variety of other platforms that they make them for. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it helps some of you. If you still have issues with your install, feel free to reach out to us. We'll do our best to help you out. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe.